Ambassador Yuna stood at the viewing deck of her damaged ship and watched Earth grow larger through the cracked window. The blue planet looked peaceful. It looked untouched by war. She felt anger rise in her chest, but she pushed it down. She needed these humans. The Coalition needed them. Her ship had traveled for 6 weeks to reach this system. The journey had been dangerous. Valkyrie patrol ships hunted Coalition vessels everywhere now. 2 escort ships had died protecting her. Their crews had burned in the cold darkness of space so she could reach this moment. Yuna was not human. She was Talori, a species with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Her people had been the first to fall when the Valkyrie Empire began its conquest 30 years ago. Half her species was dead. The other half lived as refugees on Coalition worlds, always running, always afraid. The communication screen flickered. A human face appeared. The man had short black hair and calm eyes. He wore a military uniform with many medals. "Ambassador Yuna," the man said. "I am General Taeho. Earth welcomes you. We have prepared a landing zone for your ship." "Thank you, General," Yuna replied. Her voice was tired. "I bring urgent news from the Coalition." "We know why you are here," Taeho said. His voice held no emotion. "We have been watching the war." Yuna felt her hands tighten. Watching. That was all humans ever did. They watched while billions died. They watched while entire civilizations burned. They sat on their peaceful planet and did nothing. She landed her ship in a large field surrounded by mountains. The air on Earth was sweet and clean. Birds sang in the trees. Yuna had not heard birds in many years. On most Coalition worlds, the forests were ash and the skies were gray with smoke. General Taeho met her with a small group of soldiers. They walked to a building made of glass and steel. Inside, more humans waited. They sat around a long table. Some wore military uniforms, others wore formal clothes. All of them watched her with curious eyes. "Please sit," Taeho said. "Tell us what you need." Yuna remained standing. She wanted them to see her. She wanted them to understand. "The Coalition is dying," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hearts beat fast. "The Valkyrie have pushed us back to our final systems. In 6 months, maybe less, they will break through our last defenses. When that happens, they will kill everyone. Every species in the Coalition will be erased from existence." The humans listened in silence. Their faces showed nothing. "We have fought for 30 years, Yuna continued. "We have lost 400 billion lives. Our greatest warriors are dead. Our best ships are destroyed. We have nothing left." She paused and looked at each human face. "Earth is the only hope we have left." A woman at the table spoke. She had gray hair and sharp eyes. "Why should we help you? This war has never touched us. The Valkyrie have never attacked human ships or human colonies." "Because they will," Yuna said. "The Valkyrie do not make peace. They do not stop. When the Coalition falls, they will turn their eyes to Earth. Your neutrality means nothing to them. Your distance means nothing. They will come, and they will destroy you just as they destroyed everyone else." "Perhaps," the woman said, "but that day is not today." Yuna wanted to scream. She wanted to grab this woman and shake her, but she forced herself to stay calm. "I did not come here to beg," she said. "I came to offer you a choice. You can fight with us now, when you have allies, when you have time to prepare. Or you can fight alone later, when there is no one left to help you." General Taeho raised his hand. The room went quiet. "Ambassador, I have a question," he said. "In 30 years of war, how many times has the Coalition asked for our help?" Yuna hesitated. "This is the first time." "Why?" The question surprised her. "We did not think we needed help. We believed we could win on our own. And now? Now we know we were wrong." Taeho nodded slowly. He looked at the other humans around the table. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Yuna could not read their faces. Humans were strange creatures. They hid their feelings behind masks of calm. "The Coalition rejected our offer of alliance twice," Tejo said. 20 years ago, and again 12 years ago. Both times, your leaders said humanity was too young, too primitive, too inexperienced in galactic matters. Yuna felt shame burn in her chest. She remembered those decisions. She had been a young diplomat then. She had agreed with her leaders. Humans were newcomers to space. What could they offer against the Vrakari war machine? We were arrogant, she admitted. We were fools. I am sorry. You do not need to apologize, Tejo said. The past is done. What matters now is the future. He stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky turned orange and red, colors that Yuna had not seen in decades. On her homeworld, the sunsets had been purple and gold. She would never see them again. Ambassador, do you know why humanity stayed neutral in this war? Because you were afraid, Yuna said. It was what everyone believed. Tejo turned and smiled. It was a small smile, but there was something dangerous in it. No, he said. We stayed neutral because we were not ready. We stayed neutral because when we fight, we do not fight the way others fight. We needed time to prepare. We needed to watch. We needed to learn everything about our enemy. Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? I mean that humanity has been preparing for this war since the day it began. We have spent 30 years studying the Vrakari. We know their ships. We know their tactics. We know their leaders. We know things about them that even they do not know about themselves. The other humans in the room stood. Their calm faces had changed. Now Yuna saw something else in their eyes. Something hard and cold and patient. Ambassador Yuna, Tejo said, humanity will enter this war. But we will not fight the way the coalition has fought. We will not throw ships and soldiers at the enemy. Until everyone is dead, we have a different way. What way? Tejo walked back to the table and placed his hands flat on the surface. The Vrakari believe this war will last another 100 years. They believe they have time to crush the coalition slowly. They believe humanity is weak and afraid. He leaned forward, and his eyes burned with quiet fire. They are wrong. When we enter this war, we will end it. Not in years. Not in months. In days. Yuna stared at him. She wanted to believe. She desperately wanted to believe. But how could one species do what hundreds had failed to do? How? She whispered. Tejo straightened and adjusted his uniform. Go back to the coalition, ambassador. Tell your leaders that humanity is coming. Tell them to hold the line for 3 more weeks. And tell them to watch the stars. He walked toward the door, then paused. The Vrakari will never know what hit them. 3 weeks passed. The coalition waited. Ambassador Yuna had returned with the human promise. And for the first few days, hope had spread through the allied species. Humanity was coming. The great neutral power would finally join the fight. But nothing happened. No human fleets jumped into coalition space. No human soldiers appeared at the front lines. No human weapons arrived to strengthen the defenses. The stars remained quiet, and hope began to die. High Commander Vorus of the Drenath species slammed his fist on the command table. He was a large creature, covered in thick gray scales, with 4 arms and a mouth full of sharp teeth. He had led coalition forces for 8 years. In that time, he had lost 300 ships and millions of soldiers. The humans lied to us, he roared. They gave us false hope while our people die. Ambassador Yuna stood at the other end of the table. She looked tired. She had not slept well since returning from Earth. General Tejo gave his word, she said. Humans do not break their word. Then where are they? Vorus demanded. Where are their mighty ships? Where are their armies? We are dying, Ambassador. Every day, we lose more systems. The Vrakari are at our doorstep. Yuna had no answer. She had sent message after message to Earth. The responses were always the same. Wait. Trust us. Everything is going according to plan. What plan? What were the humans doing? Far away, on a small moon in neutral space, Commander Hana sat in a dark room filled with screens. She was a small woman with short hair and eyes that missed nothing. Around her, dozens of human operatives worked in silence. They stared at screens, typed on keyboards, and whispered into communication devices. This was the heart of human intelligence operations. No one in the galaxy knew this place existed. The Coalition thought humans were cowards. The Vrakari thought humans were insignificant. Both were wrong. Hana studied the data flowing across her main screen. It showed Vrakari fleet movements, supply routes, communication patterns, and command structures. Her teams had spent 30 years gathering this information. They had planted spies in Vrakari territory. They had intercepted millions of transmissions. They had built a picture of the enemy so complete that Hana knew the Vrakari better than the Vrakari knew themselves. "Commander," a young operative named G1 said, "we have confirmed the location of Supreme Admiral Gorath. He is on the command station above Vrakar Prime." Hana nodded. Gorath was the military leader of the entire Vrakari Empire. He had commanded the invasion of Coalition space. He had ordered the destruction of 1,000 worlds. He was the brain of the enemy war machine. "What about the backup command centers?" Hana asked. "Identified and mapped," G1 replied. "There are 12 secondary command stations. We have operatives within range of all of them." G1 replied. "Identified and mapped stations. G1 replied. "We have operatives within range of all of them." Hana allowed herself a small smile. This was the human way of war. Not brute force. Not massive fleets crashing against each other. Humans fought with information, patience, and precision. In another part of the galaxy, a Vrakari communications officer named Tark worked at his station on a relay ship. He was bored. His job was simple: pass messages from the front lines to the command structure. He had done this job for 15 years without incident. He did not know that a small device had been attached to his ship's communication array 6 months ago. He did not know that every message he transmitted was copied and sent to human intelligence. He did not know that his ship was one of 700 that had been compromised in the same way. The humans had done this quietly. They had used small drones, no bigger than insects, to attach monitoring devices to Vrakari ships. The drones were invisible to Vrakari sensors. The devices were undetectable by Vrakari technology. The Vrakari had no idea they were being watched. Back on the Coalition front lines, the situation grew worse. The Vrakari launched a massive attack on the Tellurian refugee system. 50 million Tellurians lived there, including the last survivors of Yuna's family. "We cannot hold," the Tellurian defense commander screamed over the communication channel. "They are breaking through." High Commander Voris made a decision. He pulled ships from other sectors to reinforce the Tellurians. It weakened the overall defense line. But he could not let another species be wiped out. The battle lasted 4 days. The Coalition held, but barely. 12 ships were destroyed. 80,000 soldiers died. And the Vrakari simply pulled back and began preparing for their next attack. "This cannot continue," Voris said in the War Council. "We are bleeding to death. Where are the humans?" Ambassador Yuna stood before him. "I received a message this morning. General Teho says we must hold for 4 more days. He says the operation is almost ready." "Operation?" Voris laughed bitterly. "What operation? We have seen nothing. No ships, no soldiers, no weapons. The humans are playing games while we die. Perhaps," said another council member, a small creature from the Methni species. "Or perhaps the humans are planning something we do not understand." Voris shook his head. "War is war. You need ships and weapons and soldiers. You need strength. What can the humans possibly do that we have not tried?" On Earth, General Teho stood before a massive holographic display. It showed the entire galaxy, every star system, every planet, every ship. Red dots marked Vrakari positions. Blue dots marked Coalition forces. And green dots, so small they were almost invisible, marked human operatives. There were thousands of green dots. They were everywhere. Inside Vrekari systems, on Vrekari ships, in Vrekari communication stations, near Vrekari power plants. Close to Vrekari leaders, Captain Donghyun stood beside the general. He was a young man with a scar across his left cheek, earned in a training accident years ago. He commanded the strike team that would carry out the main operation. All teams are in position, Donghyun reported. We are ready to begin on your order. Taeho studied the display. He saw the coalition defense lines, thin and weak. He saw the Vrekari fleets, massive and powerful. Any normal military assessment would say the coalition was doomed. Any normal strategy would require years of fighting and billions more deaths. But Taeho was not planning a normal strategy. The coalition thinks we abandoned them, he said quietly. The Vrekari think we are afraid. Both are wrong. He turned to face his command staff. These were the best minds in human military intelligence. They had spent their careers preparing for this moment. In 12 hours, we will launch the most coordinated strike in galactic history. Every target must be hit at the exact same moment. There can be no mistakes, no delays, no failures. He looked at Donghyun. Captain, your team will hit the command station. You will disable their primary communication array and capture Supreme Admiral Gorath. Do not kill him. We need him alive. Donghyun nodded. Understood, sir. The secondary teams will hit the backup command centers. The support teams will disable the power grid on Vrekar Prime. The communication teams will jam all Vrekari frequencies. When we are done, the enemy will be deaf, blind, and paralyzed. He took a deep breath. The Vrekari have built an empire on conquest and fear. They believe their strength makes them unbeatable. But strength means nothing when you cannot see, cannot speak, and cannot think. He raised his hand over the command console. Humanity has watched this war for 30 years. We have learned everything. We have prepared for everything. And now, we will end everything. His hand came down. Begin the operation. Across the galaxy, thousands of human operatives received the same signal. They checked their equipment. They reviewed their targets. They took deep breaths. The war was about to change forever. The Vrekari command station orbited above their homeworld like a metal moon. It was the largest military structure in the Empire, home to 10,000 officers and soldiers. From here, Supreme Admiral Gorath commanded all Vrekari forces across the galaxy. Every order, every strategy, every battle plan flowed from this station. Gorath sat in his command chair, surrounded by screens showing the war's progress. He was pleased. The coalition was breaking. Their defenses grew weaker each day. Soon, he would order the final assault. He would crush the last resistance and claim the galaxy for the Vrekari Empire. A junior officer approached. Supreme Admiral, the Tellurian system is still holding. Should we send additional forces? No, Gorath said. Let them think they have won a small victory. It will make their final defeat more satisfying. We will crush them all in one great push. He smiled, showing rows of sharp black teeth. In 1,000 years, children would learn his name. They would know him as the greatest conqueror in history. The one who united the galaxy under Vrekari rule. He did not know that 600 meters below his feet, a human team was already inside the station. Captain Donghyun moved through the maintenance tunnels with his squad. There were 8 of them, dressed in black, carrying weapons that made no sound. They had entered the station through a waste disposal port 4 hours ago. Since then, they had avoided 17 patrols and disabled 9 security systems. 200 meters to the primary communication array, whispered Jisoo, the team's technical specialist. She was small and quick, with fingers that could crack any computer system in the galaxy. Security? Donghyun asked. 12 guards, 2 automated turrets. Nothing we cannot handle. Donghyun checked the time on his wrist display. They had exactly 47 minutes until the synchronized strike. Every human team across the galaxy would act at the same moment. The timing had to be perfect. On Vrekar Prime below, Another human team approached the main power plant. Team leader Minji crawled through a ventilation shaft, her heart beating steady and calm. She had trained for this mission for 8 years. She knew every corner of this facility, every guard rotation, every security code. Control. This is Shadow 7, she whispered into her communicator. In position at target Alpha. Copy. Shadow 7, came the reply from Commander Hana's intelligence center. Hold. For synchronized strike. On. Across the Empire, similar reports came in. Human teams had infiltrated communication stations, military bases, supply depots, and command centers. They had positioned themselves at critical points in the Vrekari infrastructure. All of them waited for the same signal. On the command station, Donghyun and his team reached the communication array. Through a small window, he could see the massive room filled with equipment. This array connected Gorath to every ship and station in the Vrekari fleet. Without it, the Supreme Admiral would be cut off from his forces. Jisoo, are you ready? Yes, Captain. I can disable the array in 90 seconds once we breach. Donghyun looked at his team. These were the best soldiers humanity had produced. They had trained together, lived together, and prepared together for this single moment. Remember, he said quietly, we do not fail. Our people are counting on us. The coalition is counting on us. The galaxy is counting on us. They nodded. No one was afraid. They had moved beyond fear long ago. The timer on Donghyun's wrist counted down. 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes. In the intelligence center, Commander Hana watched the galaxy map. Thousands of green dots pulsed, showing human operatives in position. The red web of Vrekari communications spread across the display, connecting every part of their empire. All teams report ready, Ji-won announced. Vrekari status. No alerts. They suspect nothing. Hana allowed herself to breathe. 30 years of preparation came down to this moment. If they failed, the coalition would fall. The Vrekari would conquer everything. Humanity would be next, but they would not fail. Humans did not fail when it mattered most. 1 minute, she said. On Earth, General Taeho stood alone in his office, watching the same countdown. He thought about the billions who had died in this war. He thought about the species that had been erased from existence. He thought about the fear that had spread across the galaxy like a disease. Today, that ended. 30 seconds, the computer announced. Donghyun raised his hand. His team tensed, ready to move. 20 seconds. Minji gripped her equipment, her eyes fixed on the power plant control room ahead. 10 seconds. Across the galaxy, thousands of humans took their final breaths before action. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Execute. Everything happened at once. Donghyun's team breached the communication room. They moved like shadows, fast and silent. Guards fell before they could raise their weapons. Jisoo ran to the main console and began her work. Her fingers flew across the controls, inserting human code into Vrekari systems. Array disabled in 60 seconds, she reported. On Vrekar Prime, Minji's team stormed the power plant control room. They used stun weapons that dropped the Vrekari workers without killing them. Minji reached the main reactor controls and began the shutdown sequence. Power grid going dark in 90 seconds. At 12 different locations across the Empire, human teams attacked secondary command centers. They did not destroy them. They captured them. Human technicians took control of enemy systems, locking out Vrekari officers and inserting false data. The communication station above Gorath's homeworld went silent first. Then the backup stations fell, one by one. The web of red connections on Hana's display began to flicker and die. Supreme Admiral Gorath was reviewing battle plans when his screens went dark. He stood, confused. "What is happening?" he demanded. Officers rushed to their stations. Nothing worked. Every communication channel was dead. Every data connection was severed. "We have lost contact with the fleet," an officer reported, his voice shaking. "All frequencies are jammed. We cannot reach anyone." The lights in the command center flickered. Emergency power kicked in, but the main systems remained dead. "This is impossible," Gorath said. "We are the Vrekari Empire. Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. Nothing can." The doors to the command center exploded inward. Smoke filled the room. Gorath saw shadows moving through the chaos, quick and precise. His guards raised their weapons, but they were too slow. They fell one by one, stunned into unconsciousness. When the smoke cleared, Gorath stood alone. 8 figures in black surrounded him. Their weapons pointed at his chest. One of them stepped forward and removed his mask. It was a human. Young, with a scar on his cheek and cold, calm eyes. "Supreme Admiral Gorath," Donghyun said. "My name is Captain Donghyun of Earth. You are now a prisoner of humanity." Gorath stared at him. His mind could not process what was happening. "How?" he whispered. "How did you get here? How did you do this?" Donghyun smiled slightly. "You spent 30 years watching the Coalition. We spent 30 years watching you." On Vrekar Prime, the power grid collapsed. Cities went dark. Factories shut down. Military bases lost all function. The entire planet, the heart of the Vrekari Empire, fell silent. Across the galaxy, Vrekari ships drifted helplessly. Their navigation systems were corrupted. Their communication arrays were jammed. Their commanders could not give orders because they did not know what was happening. In 12 hours, the most powerful empire in galactic history was paralyzed, not destroyed, not defeated in battle, simply stopped. Commander Hana watched her display as the red web disappeared completely. She felt tears in her eyes but did not let them fall. "All primary targets secured," G1 reported. "0 human casualties. The operation is a complete success." Hana nodded. She opened a channel to General Taeho. "Sir, the Vrekari Empire is deaf, blind, and paralyzed. They cannot coordinate their forces. They cannot communicate with their fleets. They cannot control their own homeworld." Taeho's voice came back, quiet and steady. "Inform the Coalition. Tell them the war is over. They just do not know it yet." Hana smiled. "Yes, sir." The humans had entered the war, and in a single day, they had ended it before the enemy even understood what happened. High Commander Voris stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at his screens in disbelief. For the past 16 hours, nothing had made sense. The Vrekari fleets that had been pressing against Coalition defenses suddenly stopped. Their ships drifted without purpose. Their weapons went silent. Their communication channels produced only static. "What is happening?" he asked for the 100th time. His officers had no answers. They ran scans, sent probes, and tried to intercept enemy signals. Nothing worked because there were no signals to intercept. The Vrekari war machine had simply stopped. Ambassador Yuna rushed onto the bridge. Her face was a mixture of shock and hope. "I received a message from Earth," she said. "General Taeho says the operation was successful. He says the Vrekari Empire is paralyzed." "Paralyzed?" Voris repeated. "What does that mean?" "It means they cannot fight. They cannot communicate. They cannot coordinate. The humans have broken them." Voris looked at his screens again. 3 Vrekari warships drifted in front of his position. They were massive vessels, each capable of destroying half his fleet. But they were not moving. They were not shooting. They were doing nothing. "Send a probe," he ordered. A small drone ship flew toward the nearest Vrekari vessel. It got closer and closer. Still nothing. No weapons fire. No reaction at all. "The probe is scanning the ship," an officer reported. "Life signs are normal. The crew is alive. But their systems are completely shut down. Navigation, weapons, engines, communications, everything is offline." Voris felt his legs weaken. He grabbed the edge of his command console for support. "How is this possible?" "The humans," Yuna said quietly. "They did exactly what they promised. They entered the war, and they ended it." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Coalition commanders watched in amazement as Vrekari forces went dark. Ships that had been hunting them now floated helplessly. Stations that had launched attacks now sat silent and cold. Lieutenant Subin commanded a small patrol ship near the Vrakari border. She was young, only 25 years old, but she had already seen more death than most creatures saw in a lifetime. Her ship had survived 12 battles. Half her original crew was dead. "Lieutenant," her sensor officer called. "We are detecting a Vrakari transport ship nearby. It appears to be damaged. Weapons status? None detected." Their systems seemed to be offline. Subin considered her options. Under normal circumstances, she would avoid any contact with Vrakari vessels. They were dangerous even when damaged. But these were not normal circumstances. "Take us closer," she ordered. Her ship approached the transport carefully. As they got near, a light began flashing on the Vrakari vessel. Someone was trying to communicate using basic light signals, the oldest form of ship-to-ship communication. "They are sending a message," the communications officer said. It says they wish to surrender." Cond. Subin felt her heart stop. "Surrender?" "Yes, Lieutenant. They are asking for terms of surrender." Subin had dreamed of this moment for years. Every night, she imagined the day when the Vrakari would finally be defeated, but she had always imagined it would come after a great battle, after millions more deaths, after years more fighting. Not like this. Not so suddenly. Not so completely. "Accept their surrender," she said. Her voice shook slightly. "Tell them they will be treated fairly." She was the first coalition officer to accept a Vrakari surrender. She would not be the last. On Vrakar Prime, the population was in chaos. Without power, without communication, without their military leaders, the Vrakari people did not know what to do. They had been raised to conquer, to dominate, to never show weakness. Now they were helpless. Human ships entered orbit around the planet. They were not warships, but transport vessels carrying supplies, medicine, and food. General Teho had ordered them deployed immediately after the operation succeeded. "We are not here to conquer," he had said. "We are here to end a war. The Vrakari people are not our enemies. Their leaders were our enemies. And those leaders are now in custody." Captain Dong Hyun escorted Supreme Admiral Gorath to a secure facility on a human station. The Admiral had not spoken since his capture. His face was blank, empty of all expression. His great empire had fallen in a single day, and he could not understand how. "Why did you not simply destroy us?" Gorath finally asked, as they walked down a corridor. Dong Hyun looked at him. "Because destruction was never our goal." "Then what was your goal?" "Peace." Gorath laughed bitterly. "Peace? Through trickery and deception?" "Through intelligence and precision," Dong Hyun corrected. "Your empire was built on fear and force. You believed that strength was the only thing that mattered. You were wrong." He stopped and faced the Admiral directly. 30 years ago, when the war began, humanity could have joined the coalition. We could have sent our fleets to fight alongside the other species. We could have added our soldiers to the battles. Why did you not? Because we would have lost. The Vrakari were too strong. The coalition was too weak. More ships and more soldiers would have just meant more death. Gorath narrowed his eyes. "So you hid. You waited while others died." "No. We prepared. We spent 30 years studying you. We learned your weaknesses. We found your blind spots. We placed our people in positions where they could act when the time was right." He leaned closer. "You never saw us coming because you never looked. You believed humans were primitive and afraid. You never imagined we were the most patient hunters in the galaxy." Gorath was silent for a long moment. "What happens now? Now you answer for your crimes. The billions you killed. The species you destroyed. The suffering you caused. And my people?" Dong Hyun straightened. "Your people will learn a new way to live. Not through conquest, but through cooperation. Not through fear, but through respect. It will take time. It will not be easy. But it will happen." On the coalition homeworld, celebrations erupted. Species that had spent 30 years dying now danced in the streets. Soldiers who had expected to die in the next battle hugged their families and wept. Children who had never known peace looked up at the stars without fear for the first time. High Commander Vorus addressed the Coalition Council. "I owe humanity an apology," he said. His voice was humble, something no one had heard before. "I doubted them. I accused them of cowardice. I was wrong." He looked at Ambassador Yuna, who stood beside him. "The humans fought this war in a way we could not imagine. They did not throw lives away in endless battles. They did not sacrifice billions for small victories. They found a way to end the war in a single day, with almost no deaths on either side." He bowed his head. "This is a lesson we must all learn. Strength is not just about weapons and ships. True strength is wisdom, patience, and precision." Yuna stepped forward. "The humans have asked for nothing in return for their help. They do not want territory. They do not want tribute. They only want peace and cooperation among all species." She paused. "I think, after 30 years of war, that is the most valuable gift anyone could give." On Earth, General Tejo watched the celebrations on distant worlds through his screens. He felt no joy, only relief. The war was over. The killing had stopped. Now the hard work of building peace could begin. Commander Hana entered his office. "Sir, the last Vrekari battle groups have surrendered. The war is officially over. Casualties on our side? 2 wounded, none dead." Tejo closed his eyes. 30 years of war, 400 billion dead, and humanity had ended it with 0 fatalities in a single day. "This is what we trained for," he said quietly. "This is why we waited. This is why we prepared." He opened his eyes and looked at Hana. "Let this be a lesson to the galaxy. Humanity does not start wars, but when we end them completely." Hana nodded. "The galaxy will never forget this day, sir." "Good," Tejo said. "Because I never want to repeat it." 6 months had passed since the end of the war. The galaxy was changing. Peace treaties had been signed. Borders had been redrawn. The Vrekari Empire had become the Vrekari Republic, led by a council of reformers who wanted to build a new future. But beneath the celebrations and the hope, a new feeling spread through the galactic community. It was quiet, unspoken, but everyone felt it. It was fear. Ambassador Yuna sat in her office on the Tellurian refugee world, staring at reports from across the galaxy. Rebuilding was going well. Refugees were returning to their homeworlds. Damaged cities were being repaired. The physical wounds of war were healing, but the psychological wounds were different. Her assistant, a young Tellurian named Hana, entered with more documents. "Ambassador, the monthly report from the Coalition Intelligence Office." Yuna took the documents but did not open them. She knew what they would say. Every month, the same concerns appeared. "Hana," she said quietly. "What do people say about the humans now?" Hana hesitated. "They are grateful, Ambassador. Humanity saved us all. But they are also afraid." Yuna nodded. She understood. She felt it herself. The humans had ended a 30-year war in a single day. They had infiltrated the most powerful empire in the galaxy without being detected. They had placed operatives in positions of power across enemy territory for years. They had watched, waited, and struck at the perfect moment, with perfect precision, and no one had seen them coming. The Coalition held a special summit to honor humanity's contribution to the war. Representatives from every species gathered in a great hall, decorated with flowers and lights. General Tejo attended as Earth's representative. He sat quietly, his face calm and unreadable, as species after species praised humanity's actions. High Commander Vorus gave the final speech. "We stand here today because of humanity," he said. "They did what no one else could do. They found a way to end the war without more death, without more destruction. They showed us that true power is not about weapons and armies. It is about intelligence, patience, and wisdom." He turned to face Tejo directly. "On behalf of all Coalition species, I thank humanity for their sacrifice, their patience, and their courage." The hall erupted in applause. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species clapped and cheered. Tejo stood and bowed politely, then sat back down. But Yuna watched the faces in the crowd. She saw the smiles and the gratitude. She also saw something else in their eyes. Something deeper. Something cold. After the ceremony, she found herself walking beside Taeho through the quiet gardens outside the hall. "General, may I ask you something?" "Of course, Ambassador." "During the war, how many human operatives were in Vrekari territory?" Taeho did not answer immediately. They walked past flowers and fountains, the sounds of celebration fading behind them. At the time of the operation, approximately 8,000. Yuna stopped walking. 8,000? For 30 years? Some for longer. We began placing operatives in Vrekari space 45 years ago, before the war even started. Yuna felt a chill run through her body. You knew the war was coming? We suspected it might. We prepared for the possibility. And the coalition? Did you have operatives among us as well? Taeho turned to face her. His eyes were kind but revealing nothing. Ambassador, I hope you understand that I cannot answer that question. The chill deepened. Yuna understood. The humans had been watching everyone, not just the Vrekari, not just their enemies, everyone. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Because you deserve to know the truth. You trusted us when no one else did. You believed in us when your own leaders doubted. He looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. The galaxy is afraid of humanity now. I know this. I see it in the way other species look at us. They smile and thank us. But behind their eyes, they are calculating. They are wondering what we might do next. Can you blame them? No. Fear is a natural response to power. And humanity has shown power that most species did not know existed. 4. He turned back to her. But I want you to understand something, Ambassador. Humanity did not act to gain power or territory. We acted to end suffering. We acted because we believed it was right. That is who we are. Yuna wanted to believe him. Part of her did believe him. But another part wondered if it mattered. Intentions could change. Leaders could change. The humanity that existed today might not be the humanity that existed tomorrow. In the months that followed, the galaxy's attitude toward humanity shifted subtly. Treaties were signed with Earth. But they were careful treaties, full of conditions and limits. Trade agreements were negotiated, but they were cautious agreements, designed to prevent humanity from gaining too much influence. No one said it openly, but everyone understood. The galaxy had discovered that the most dangerous species was not the one with the biggest fleet or the most powerful weapons. It was the one that watched from the shadows and struck without warning. Captain Donghyun returned to Earth after his mission. He was given medals and honors, but he refused public ceremonies. He preferred to remain unknown, just another face in the crowd. One evening, he sat in a small restaurant in Seoul, eating dinner alone. A woman approached his table. She was Tellurian, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. He recognized her as Hana, Ambassador Yuna's assistant. Captain Donghyun? Just Donghyun now. I resign my commission. May I sit? He gestured to the empty chair across from him. Hana sat down and studied his face. I wanted to meet the man who captured Supreme Admiral Goreth, the man who ended the war. I did not end the war alone. Thousands of people worked for decades to make that moment possible. But you were the one who faced him. You were the one who told him humanity had been watching. Donghyun set down his chopsticks. Why are you really here? Enda. Hana was quiet for a moment. I am afraid of your species. I wanted to understand why. And what have you concluded? That my fear is justified. Humanity spent generations preparing to fight a war that had not yet begun. You placed your people in danger, in enemy territory. For decades, you watched and waited with a patience that no other species possesses. She leaned forward. What are you preparing for now? What enemy are you watching? What war are you planning to end before it starts? Donghyun considered her words carefully. We are not preparing for any war. We hope there will never be another war. But if there is, we will be ready. Hana shivered despite the warmth of the restaurant. That is exactly what frightens me. Donghyun picked up his chopsticks again. Ambassador Yuna once asked General Taeho why we did not simply destroy the Vrakari. He told her that destruction was never our goal. Our goal was peace. But you achieved peace through fear. Perhaps, but is peace through fear worse than peace through destruction? Would you prefer that we had killed billions of Vrakari instead of capturing their leaders and shutting down their systems? Hana had no answer. Humanity is not perfect, Donghyun continued. We have made terrible mistakes in our history. We have fought among ourselves, killed our own kind, destroyed our own world's environment. But we learned from those mistakes. We became better. He looked at her with steady eyes. The galaxy sees a species to be feared. We see ourselves as protectors. We ended the war not to prove our power, but to stop the killing. If that makes others afraid of us, so be it. He returned to his meal. But I hope, someday, the galaxy will see us as partners instead of threats. I hope they will trust us, as Ambassador Yuna trusted us. Hana stood slowly. That day may be very far away. Perhaps. But humanity is patient. We can wait. She left the restaurant without another word. Outside, she looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 8,000 human operatives had returned to their normal lives. No one knew who they were. No one knew where they had been. And if war ever came again, they would be ready. They would be watching. They would be waiting. The galaxy celebrated peace. But it also remembered the lesson humanity had taught them. The most dangerous creature is not the one that roars and charges. It is the one that watches silently from the darkness, patient and prepared, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Humanity had earned the galaxy's gratitude. They had also earned its fear. And perhaps, in the end, that fear would keep the peace better than any treaty or alliance ever could.